In this video, Scott Jennings schools a hyperventilating CNN panel after they declare that Trump is, quote-unquote, shredding the Constitution. Pam Bondi drops the epic bombshell on the Epstein files. Pete Hegseth slams the group, blocking him from housing illegals in Gitmo. Stephen Miller gives an epic speech. Floyd Mayweather officially declares Donald Trump the greatest president of all time. And Sunny Hostin proved that she is, well, still retarded. Let's get into it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. The first two clips you're going to watch are of Scott Jennings schooling the CNN panel. In the first clip, they claim that Trump is shredding the Constitution. And in the next clip, you will not believe that the Democratic CNN panelists are complaining about media bias after Jeff Bezos purchases the Washington Post. You can't make this stuff up. Let's get it.
You all made an interesting point, which is that your view is that Trump is shredding the Constitution. I'd like to hear more about that. But that it seems to me that you all both believe that the unelected part of our government, the bureaucracy, has a responsibility to resist the political leadership. Is that your view?
That's not actually what we
not
said.
at all.
We said they are upholding the Constitution, the principles of the Constitution, and at times
how
we
is
have
Trump
seen,
shredding the Constitution?
My God, he's like.
I mean, seriously, do we have to
believe
give
in
you a
balance of
civics
power,
lesson
Scott?
that we have?
I don't know.
We put all power in the executive
How is
branch.
holding the
The
government-
legislative branch, the FBI. Now we're in control of the military. We're
Yes.
silencing media.
Commander-in-Chief,
This
head
is
of
what
the
you
military.
do
It's the
in a
Supreme Court of power.
dictatorship.
Are
This
you
is not.
suggesting that the president is not the commander-in-chief of the military?
I'm suggesting that the president is going to put in charge somebody who is going to contravene the Constitution. And at some near point, this conversation will look very silly for you because it will be obvious. And right now, you're gaslighting. But when we get to the actual rubber of the road of this, it will be clear.
I'm interested in this conversation. He's going to put someone in charge who will contravene the Constitution. Like who? What do you mean by that? The president is in charge of the military, is he not? You said he's going to put someone in charge of the military?
The president is in charge of the military. That is how it works.
This is important conversation.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm letting you have it. Yeah, I mean, I think it is important because there is this perception that Trump does want to push the boundaries of what is in his constitutional lane. And his staff secretary said that apparently he signed an executive order saying that only he and the attorney general get to say what the law is. So that's the type of thing that I think that Trump has said that has caused people to question, what does he mean by that?
I don't think he has done anything in the first month that is outside the bounds of the power vested in him by the Constitution. He was elected president. We, according to the Constitution, vest all executive authority in a president. And the concept that the military should be an independent agency or that the bureaucracy should resist the political leadership of this government is extraordinarily dangerous.
That's what we said. That's such a straw
not what
man.
we
It's
said.
That's
ridiculous.
literally not what we said.
I'm just repeating back to you your own
I
words.
did not say resist.
What if the
Ridiculous word game that's going on here. I mean, who doesn't believe in individual liberties? Who doesn't believe in free markets? Until a month ago, we lived in a democracy and capitalist country. Now we're in an oligarchy and a plutocracy, and things have changed. So for him to say that this is all about individual liberty and free markets is rather like being fair and balanced, if you remember that phrase from another network. It's meaningless. It's vacuous. It means absolutely nothing. Who's going to be against those things? So clearly he's signaling that he's going to use these kinds of made-up words to say, I'm with Trump. And as you said, it's his paper. He owns it. He can drive it in the ground, which he's doing, having lost 300,000 subscribers after not endorsing Kamala Harris. It's his choice, but it's an important institution in this country that he's destroying.
So Marty Baron, who was the editor of the paper when Jeff Bezos first bought it, and I worked under Marty Baron for years, he was not an anti-Jeff Bezos person. In fact, they worked extremely closely together. Here's what he said to the Daily Beast today. He said, "There is no doubt in my mind that he is doing this out of fear of the consequences for his other business interests, Amazon, the source of his wealth, and Blue Origin, which represents his lifelong passion for space exploration. He has prioritized those commercial interests over the Post, and he is betraying the Post's long-standing principles to do so." You can't not take that seriously as a possibility here.
No, of course. I mean, this is what's going on. Billionaires have too much control over our media and are bringing their business concerns into our media. He can, as far as the human right of an owner to do whatever. But this is an incredible responsibility, or at least we used to think about it that way, to own an important piece of the media, a legacy piece of media, to treat it this way is to use it to.
Well, it's a commodity. It's another business that is being used as leverage in an effort to protect his other businesses.
Well, I'm interested in a couple of the comments you made. You said it was destroying the newspaper because they failed to endorse Kamala Harris. I mean, what does that say about a newspaper that you have to endorse a certain political party and for it?
That's not the way it happened. What happened was that the editorial board had an editorial done and ready, and that was the process.
Right.
And then suddenly to say, oh, now we're not going to endorse. They've endorsed other things since. It was the process by which it went under there. And there's other things going on constantly in the paper. I now use the hashtags Broken Times and Broken Post. The headlines in both papers, I think, are constantly off, constantly trying to soft pedal what's going on. Yeah. You're not going to like what I'm saying next, but we are in the middle of a totalitarian fascist coup in this country. Yes. And when we don't call it that, when we soft pedal it, when we don't have a real discussion about it. At least here, I could say those words, we can have that discussion, but you will not see those words in the New York Times or the Washington Post.
So, Jeff, if we were being honest, there should be a breaking news banner on CNN and MSNBC all day long. Yes. We are in dictatorship right now.
Let me just say, from the perspective of free speech, right? You disagree with what he just said.
Yes.
But he has the right to say it.
Of course.
I'm not sure that he would have the right to say that in the pages of the Washington Post. Well, does that seem problematic?
Well, my second point was going to be that I think the categories of personal liberty and free markets are quite broad. I mean, you could fit a number of column topics. I've written thousands of newspaper columns in my life. You could fit a number of column topics under those two things. I also read his note, and he was saying that, you know, there's lots of opinions out there, and we're going to focus on these sort of big ticket items. I don't think they're narrow. I think they're very large. I'll be interested to see what they're willing to publish.
He's saying we are only doing one side of those issues.
That's
not
the thing.
just
we'll see.
These issues and not exploring both
as a final
sides
point,
of the free market issue. It's
said,
going to be about the monopoly of Jeff Bezos to control the market. That's what we're talking about.
He has one newspaper. But one more thing. You said, who would be against individual liberties? It has not been that many years ago in this country when a great many public officials, elected and unelected, were adamantly opposed to individual liberties. It must be defended all the time, including the most important one, free speech, which you and I must agree on has to be defended at all times.
Well, right now we see that Donald Trump is kicking the Associated Press out of the press room. And by the way, the rest of the press is not standing up.
They're not out of the press room.
That's not about...
They have a seat in the briefing room.
That's not about free press. That's about being afraid of what they're going to say, afraid of what they're going to do.
He's the most open, honest president.
It is so not.
Ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Look at what we experienced the last 4 years.
Are you kidding? This whole notion of we're going to choose who we answer questions from, that is
He's frightened.
He's
frightened to death of free
speech. The White House is going to choose who they're going to answer questions to. This attack on the journalism and freedom of speech, like that is the last bit of our democracy to uphold. And quite frankly, the fact that a billionaire is controlling how our media is going to cover this president when we understand...
Who's controlling? Elon's controlling the media?
Elon, well, he has social media, but the billionaire Jeff Bezos.
How many radio stations does George Soros own?
Listen,
here's the thing.
But George Soros is actually okay with different opinions.
There are more information sources than ever. We have the most democratized media that we've ever had. We have more people than ever that have access to disseminating information. It's not a bad thing.
One person at a time.
It's not a bad thing. And look, he has one paper. There's lots of newspapers. There's lots of ways to get information right now. I think what's going on here is...
So are you agreeing? I mean, I think that what they're saying over here is that Jeff Bezos is actually moving the paper ideologically in a particular direction. It sounds like you're saying that that is what he's doing because he's trying to create a niche for the Washington Post.
What I read, yes, I agree that he's trying to carve out a niche for that opinion page, which may not be a terrible business idea, and I don't know what direction he's going to move it. But these two big topics are vital topics.
It's ridiculous. It's not a niche at all.
But what's interesting about what he said was that he didn't define really what he meant by those topics, but he said any opinions that are in contradiction to them cannot be printed in the newspaper.
He thinks he's coming up with a niche, though, Abby. What's the Wall Street Journal? What's Rupert Murdoch? Will Lewis, who's the head of the company now, and Matt Murray, who's the editor, are both Murdoch trained. This is kind of a quiet, subtle takeover of the Murdoch world here. So it becomes another New York Post, Fox News, and Wall Street Journal. And, you know, that's okay. He owns it. He could do what he wants. But as far as I'm concerned, it's my opinion that destroys the institution, and it's one of the few we have left.
If he told us that he was moving rightward because he thought that was a good business model or that fits where the country is, we could listen to that.
I think that is what he's saying, though.
No, he's saying, I'm doing this for my business, and this is better for my business.
Absolutely unbelievable to hear these people, which might be the most ridiculous panel that they've had in a long time on CNN, but to hear them complain about media biases. I don't think we can go back to a time where it's proper journalism. I think you have to get it from something like Substack now, or you have to go to independent sources. With everything being click-based in the age of the internet, now there are some real journalists out there that are doing great work. I subscribe to the Substack of Matt Taibbi. I'm a subscriber of Michael Schellenberger and a few others. I like to support the guys out there and women that are doing the actual work. Now, let's get to Pam Bondi saying that today we are going to get the Epstein files. I'm licking my chops at this one. Maybe a bad choice of words here, but this would be awesome. Let's get this out there. We voted for this. It is time that they get out. Let's get the Pam Bondi and a clip following that one, reminding us that Trump was one of the people supporting the victims of all this. Let's go.
Last week that you have the Epstein files on your desk is when can we see them and what's taking so long to release them?
I do. Jesse, there are well over, this will make you sick, 200 victims. 200. So we have, well over 250 actually. So we have to make sure that their identity is protected and their personal information. But other than that, I think tomorrow, the personal information of victims. Other than that, I think tomorrow, Jesse, breaking news right now, you're going to see some Epstein information being released by my office.
What kind? Are we going to see who was on the flights? Are we going to see any evidence from what he recorded? Because he had all of his homes wired with recording devices.
Yeah, what you're going to see, hopefully tomorrow, is a lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information. But it's pretty sick what that man did.
Okay, well,
along with his co-defendant.
Absolutely, and he had help. That's for sure.
He sure did.
We're hearing reports that there was an investigation opened into James Comey, who may have thrown honeypots at Donald Trump back in the 2015, 2016 years. Is that true?
The only thing that I can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who, in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know, and was very helpful in the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information that checked out and that helped us, and that we didn't have to take a deposition of him.
That was in 2009?
That was in 2009. So,
do you know if there's any truth to James Patterson's claims that Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago?
I've definitely heard that. I definitely heard that, and I don't know that it was Trump himself as opposed to a manager there.
But it's Trump's club, so
yeah,
people credit him.
I've heard the rumor that Epstein was kicked out of there for allegedly trying to pick up somebody's daughter or something like that.
Time to get all the MLK stuff up there, the Epstein stuff, the JFK stuff. The people voted for this, and the people have a right to know. And when it comes to the Epstein files, Biden could have had these out there, and he didn't. That says something. Now let's get to Pete Hegseth, who just slammed the group trying to block him from housing illegals at Gitmo. Pete Hegseth, what an upgrade at that position. They've all been upgrades, and massive ones. This is the greatest cabinet ever assembled, in my opinion. But for anybody who doubted this man, because the media was really going after him, I'm glad he stuck it through. I'm glad he stayed the course. And in the second video, you're gonna watch him send a very strong message to the cartels. Let's go.
They're professionals. They do their job. It's not easy. Not easy time. It's a maximum security prison.
Did you talk to any of the detainees or see any of them?
Saw them. We didn't talk to them or interact with them, but we saw them, saw their living conditions.
And what do they look like?
It's austere. It's basic. But it's every basic amenity that you could need is provided. Medical checks, dental checks, healthcare checks, welfare checks, recreational opportunities. But again, it's austere and it's basic because it should be. You broke our laws. If you may temporarily have to go to Gitmo, and then you're going home.
An ACLU group is saying that the confinement there is tantamount to solitary confinement, which is against the UN rules on how you have to house people like this, because they only get 2 hours of outside time, outside of their cells. What do you say to that?
I say bull to the ACLU. I know what their agenda is. They want to make America look bad. They want to make our Commander-in-Chief, President Trump, look bad. These are top-notch, top-tier facilities run by professionals where they bend over backwards to make sure that medical, dental, healthcare, food, religious accommodations, language accommodations all exist. No, you're not going to have universal freedom at Guantanamo Bay. It's a prison. But they get all the time that they need as a temporary place to send them home. This is about temporarily holding high-profile, high-threat individuals who then we send home.
To the cartels, they're watching all this. What's your message to them?
Oh, my message has been from the beginning, we're taking nothing off the table. Nothing. We will do whatever it takes to secure the American homeland, to maintain our sovereignty, and protect the American people.
Does that mean you're ruling out potential strikes inside of Mexico on fentanyl labs that we know they exist, and we know where they exist?
No, I don't think I ruled anything out. Anything's on the table. The Commander-in-Chief, ultimately, with my consultation and with the chairman and others, will make those determinations, but nothing's off the table. Our sovereignty will be defended.
There are so many people that I refer to as traitors in the government, all these people that want illegals to just come in willy-nilly. We have a lot of Marxists on the left and people that are trying to block Pete Hegseth from housing illegals in Gitmo. These are the people we're talking about. Now, Stephen Miller just spoke at CPAC, and you're going to watch him here drop the hammer blow to rogue bureaucrats demanding loyalty or exile. Absolute fire. And we're going to end it with Sonny Hostin, whose level of stupidity seems to be getting higher and higher by the day.
Perhaps the most exciting of all is the fact that every single day, the entire White House staff, the entire administration, the entire cabinet, on behalf of President Trump and his extraordinary leadership, is getting the lies out of our schools, the men out of women's sports, the poison out of our foods, the woke out of our military, the predators off our streets, and the illegal aliens the hell out of our country. It's happening. It is happening. Every day under President Trump, he is saying hell no to DEI. He is saying hell no to CRT. He is saying hell no to the indoctrination of our children. And is saying hell yes to the idea that America belongs to Americans. The federal bureaucrat who defies the lawful orders of this president will be fired. President Trump will ensure that whether you work at the FBI, whether you work at the CIA, whether you work at the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, the Department of Health and Human Services, career civil servants, also known as bureaucrats, work for the American people, and they work for the president the American people elected. They do not set their own agenda. They do not write their own rules. They do not work for themselves. They work for each and every one of you. You pay their salaries. You pay for the buildings they work in. You pay for every single thing they do. And if they are not following the laws, the Constitution, and the President of the United States, then they will find a new career.
At least I'm happy, but we're never happy. When we had Trump before, we didn't appreciate him. But I think Trump is a great president. Actually, he's the best president in my eyes. He's the best president we ever had. Great businessman, and that's what it's about.
Yeah, and the way the day's cabinet thing, you probably went around here. It was really phenomenal. To the point you talked about, putting together a great team.
Yes,
put together a fantastic cabinet.
Trump has done an amazing job, and a lot of people around America are upset. But no matter who goes in the White House, we're always upset.
Right.
And I think Trump is the man for the job. He's the best president in my eyes.
I also have been reading.
Hear someone say, I'm against diversity, equity, and inclusion. It gives me great pause because it makes me feel that you don't want diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the Republican Party and the conservatives have done a great job of bastardizing that term. And I think it needs to be retaken and explained.
When she says that the right has hijacked the words diversity, equity, and inclusion, but no, we know what they mean. Diversity, equity, inclusion used to mean was that people of any group, of any background, were free to join an organization or a company, regardless of their gender, regardless of their background. That's what it meant. What the left has made it is that you can join a group or an organization, not regardless of your race, gender, or background, but because of it. And it excluded white people, and a lot of times Asians. The left has taken those words and hijacked them, not the right. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button for your boy. Consider subscribing to the channel. Help it grow. Catch you in the next one. Appreciate all of you for being here. Peace out, everybody.